Welcome to Roots and Ruminants, your podcast for creative and innovative use of farm, pasture, and rangeland. We're going back to the basics of raising and grazing livestock, growing your own forage, and practical land use.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Roots and Ruminants, episode 1246. Right, Jared?
Not quite. I don't think so.
Not quite.
I don't think we're quite there yet. 80? 80 something? I don't know.
Yeah, something like
Something
that.
like that.
We should look.
We'll get it next
We
time.
should know this before we start and make
We'll
claims.
get it next time.
We have a guest today.
Well,
Yeah, guest is Quentin.
just say you're well seasoned. Yeah, Quentin Connealy. Yep,
Quentin Connealy from Tekamah. Do you say it Tekamah, Nebraska?
Tekamah. Yeah, you nailed
Got
it.
it.
Yep.
Spent a lot of time in your neighboring community, Herman, Nebraska. So,
Oh, wow.
very good
Yeah.
friend of mine,
That's in-
Buck Hoyer from Herman, Nebraska. You ever met the?
Oh yeah. Hung out with him wrestling last night. Yep.
Okay.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
Wrestling
We can have a
tournaments.
wrestling podcast, finally.
Oh man.
Yeah.
We can have a wrestling
we can
podcast.
Go anywhere with this.
How are the
So-
Tekamah Herman wrestlers?
Oh, we're in the youth club right now, but we're looking pretty strong. So we got
Yeah.
a good group coming up, and Buck helps coach, and I got a little man in there and kind of help on the side too. So yeah, it's a good deal. We got a good wrestling community there.
We could do
What
a whole
grade is your
podcast
boy?
on. Okay.
He's a fourth grader,
Fourth grade.
and
What way?
Buck's boy Hayes is in the same class. So yep.
Okay.
We could do a whole
So, good deal.
podcast on Buck Horror stories, but we won't. We should.
Oh man, yeah, I bet they get deep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You want to do a half a podcast on Buck Hoyer stories? And then
I don't think Al.
Oh man,
Yeah.
There we
Let's
go.
not go there. Good guy. Glad you got good neighbors down there.
yes. Oh yeah, yep. But yeah, so I farm. We're east of Tekamah, Nebraska, all kind of up on Missouri River bottoms towards Decatur, Nebraska. So we're all east of 75 and farm corn and soybeans, mostly irrigated, about 60%. And yeah, just kind of doing the farm life down there. We got the 2 kids and a wife, and little Corbin, he's about 9 years old, and then little Princess Willa is about 4 years old.
love it.
Yep. Awesome. Good to hear. So you've probably done a ton of podcasts. You do you do a podcast yourself? Do you? Or-
I don't do any
Yeah,
myself. No,
but you've been on
nope.
a fair amount, I'm guessing. Yeah.
A few,
over the
yeah,
years.
probably about 1 or 2 a year, maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Cool.
kind of comes in through spurts, but yeah, this one's good. Leading into the Commodity Classic, which will be our next little big farm shindig coming up here. So
That'd be good.
looking forward to it.
In Denver.
Oh
And
yeah,
the reason that we kind of got acquainted was because of your activeness on social media and stuff. But can you go back and before we talk about your farm and stuff, let's give our listeners kind of the history of how you became famous with Twitter and like your story there.
yeah. So yeah, I think it started in about 2016, 17. Just saw a lot of people using it to get familiar with the farming aspect, and jumped on Twitter first for mainly, and then started getting acquainted with everybody, and then I ended up wakeboarding in a cornfield this spring of 2017, and that kind of went viral and kind of got me going and bit more thrown into the public eye. So I went with it and came a big video, and just kind of the Wakeboarding Farmer stuck from that, and just kind of rolled to where we are now, and just kind of opened my own community and tell about the farm life and how we're doing everything on the farm. So I don't know, I was pretty introverted and quiet back then, and it throws you in the public, and you start talking to guys like you and get out in here and spread the great word on agriculture. So it's just the one thing we can do and use our voice.
It's fun too.
It
Like
is,
it's interesting. Like it's fun to sharpen your sod, like, you know, sharpen your mind against those of others and get new perspectives and stuff. You know what I mean? You got to keep it fun.
Yep.
Because
Yeah, that's what we're all coming from small towns, so
yeah,
we can branch out and talk to more people outside that are in other small towns and kind of connect them. And you can even see how every little small town works around Nebraska here, and I think you guys are in South Dakota, so
Yeah.
just all one big Midwest family once you get down to it.
I think it's funny that you said like the wakeboarding thing is what went viral, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're catapulted onto like this higher level of into the public eye. And like people that talk about if you want to get big into social media, whether you're doing a podcast or you're on YouTube, they're like, oh, you just have to be consistent. You just got to keep pounding the pavement, and eventually it's going to happen. But more times than none, it seems like those that just hit it big with something, then they're automatically there at that level.
Yeah, it does kind of help you catapult. Yep. Because
Yeah.
you can try the consistency thing, and it helps you with the algorithms, but if you're not being authentic and quality, and it's just like gets too repetitive and burn you out, and some people don't like to see it too if it's just the same old thing every other day. So you might as well just get to your niche and stick to it. It's
Yeah.
probably the expertise I can give you. I'm just lucky. I don't know if I could do it again, but it's been fun. It's been a fun ride.
I rarely post anything, but what I do, it's always on X. That's the only platform I really do anything on, and I'll put some like well thought out, like deep thought stuff on there, and I'll get like over the next 3 weeks 4 likes, one repost, and then I'll get like 7 bots to follow me. That's like the outcome of like a really well thought out 140 character like tweet,
Right.
and then like you'll say something dumb, and then everybody's like, "Oh yeah, that's amazing." It's really weird on what catches.
It's just a jungle. Yeah, you can put so much thought into it. It's a jungle. You never know what's going to take off. But yeah, you put something somewhat skeptical out there, and people will just eat it up and come after you and spark the conversation. But yeah, if you're just, I don't know, you just never know.
Yeah.
TikTok's even worse. So that's why I like Ag Twitter. That's kind of where I started, and got a little more better community in there. I think you get a lot more thought out people on there. So
are you on TikTok? Were you formerly on TikTok and then not on TikTok as of yesterday, and then back on TikTok today?
Yeah, I think I didn't keep track of it. Okay. I did remove it from my home screen. I was like, all right, we can take a little break from it. It's not a big deal, but I've really slowed down the last couple of years on TikTok. That it's still fun. It's still a way to get. There's a lot of younger generation on there you can get in touch with and support them, and they're still building their community, so you might as well get them going because we're not gonna be able to hold on to other. I'm almost out of my 30s, so. Yeah. Time to hand the baton to the younger generation here pretty soon.
Every social media platform will have like a generational stickiness. And so like for millennials, older millennials, it's definitely X. For, the generation older than us, it was more Facebook. The younger generation, it seems like it's TikTok. But I'm one of those like proudly refuse to get on TikTok because I hate learning new platforms. I even hate Snapchat because I don't know how to figure it out. I don't like I'm going to get off of it. I don't know. I can't make it work right. I don't like learning new things when it comes to technology, unfortunately. And then so I like to, but I really appreciate the fact that most people post TikTok videos that are good to Twitter, to X, because so I don't like the platform, but I watch a lot of their content, but just prefer that they move it over to my platform.
Yep. That's kind of where it started. I started merging the two. I started bringing my TikToks over to Ag Twitter, and you could kind of merge it a little bit better there. Yeah. Get your community. So, yep.
I learned so much from that. I learned so much from the Ag Twitter world. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. It's been around a while, so it's evolved. But
so tell us. So you farm on that large flat stretch on one of the most what I call. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's a strange stretch of highway, right? From Sioux City to to St. Joe, right? Where it's incredibly flat. You're right along the valley there. You don't see the river most of the time when you're like traveling through there, but you see this really vast expanse of what I'm assuming is, when it's dry enough, extremely productive, heavy, silt deposit dirt. Correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Quite a bit of silty loams. Yep.
How
good dirt and get a little sandy towards the river.
Is it?
A little bit of gumbo by the highway on the bench ground. So get a little bit of everything, but mostly fertile. Yep.
Is there spots or fields in there where like the topsoil is like really, really deep, or is it not? Doesn't change that much?
I'd say it's fairly deep in that top 12 inches. I'd say we got pretty good dirt.
Wow.
8 to 12, I guess. But we stopped ripping a lot, so I did bust the V-ripper out last year. The no-till V-ripper or whatever. Supposed to get me ready for the no-till game or whatever. Start breaking up. We face compaction a lot down there, and then we're so flat, like you said, that it takes a while to drain because I'm on the drainage board, so we help the water drain from the hills to the river.
Okay.
So we got our own little tacks and stuff on there that we keep track of. But yeah, just real low lying, and that's kind of what the wakeboarding thing. It took like a day or two for all that water. It was like 8-inch rain. Takes a couple days to get down to the river and off the fields.
And are those ditches for irrigation or for drainage?
Just drainage.
Just drainage. Yep. And all your irrigation comes from shallow wells, or is any
shallow wells? Yep. So I think we can hit water probably about 15 feet, but most of the wells are down to about 120 feet.
Are you on Aquas?
No, we're not directly on the Ogallala, but I think it's just subsurface from the Missouri River all coming down there. So, yep.
Okay.
But yeah, still have a little bit of flood irrigation, trying to get away from that, but lots of pivots. So, lots of 4 to 7 tower pivots.
Yep.
Can you explain flood irrigation?
Oh yeah. You want we call them character sticks. You put out little, like 30-foot long character sticks. I got a kind of little team. I'm just getting old enough. I kind of have some high school boys come out and help me. We get some football guys that want to get some strength and endurance stuff going. And then, so we string it out. They're about quarter-mile runs. And we'll do anywhere from a quarter mile to a mile a morning, it seems like, just kind of knock it out when it's cool. And get them all set up, start at the well, put them out every 30 feet. There's about 45 of them in a quarter mile. And then we'll go down the next field. So we'll kind of hook them up, test the water, open some gates, test the water. And then me and my little guy, we kind of take over from there. So you're pumping water the whole time, and then you just change sets of gates about every 8 to 12 hours. So a little more time consuming and not quite as efficient as pivot. So that's why we're trying to get away from them.
And they're sitting on a high side of a field, and you said your gates, like you can shut off so that only one section at a time is running and flowing?
Yep.
Is that how you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So usually about, depends on the water pressure, but usually 3 or 4 pipe, up to 6 pipe, or we're running at one time, about every other row, because we can hold some water. So you don't want to go every row and just put a wall of water down there. You just kind of conserve it a little bit and spread it out every other row. So each row is getting a little bit, and then run it for about 12 hours. And then you change it again about the same time every 12 hours. And then it's called a header. So it's on the higher part of the field, and then that helps the water go towards the other end. So, yep. Kind of old school, but it works.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. There's very few, I just, out in Western South Dakota, it's still a popular practice, but not many other parts of the country do it.
But there, it's mostly
Right.
like hay, right? Alfalfa grass hay type thing. It's some, not always, but like a lot of it is. So, in soybeans, like how do you flood irrigate soybeans, or do you ever flood?
We just do corn.
Just do
We
corn,
tried it one year for soybeans, and then they just get too saturated and hurts them more than helps them. So
that's what I was thinking.
We don't do that. That's what pivots are nice. So generally with the pivots, we can start watering our beans a little bit later. We don't like to start watering them too early unless it's super dry, because once you water them, you got to keep it coming, otherwise they get upset. So beans are kind of funny in our world. We don't have super great soybeans. I mean, if you're getting in the 70 to low 80s, that's pretty top-notch beans around the area. So it's just, I think they're usually fighting wet feet. And then we've went from 15-inch beans to 20-inch and 30-inch beans just to fight some mold issues and disease stuff. Mm-hmm. So we have evolved that way over the last 5-10 years.
Okay.
And any livestock on your farm?
We don't. Nope. A little fluffy farm dog, if that counts. But now my grandpa and uncle that farms with us, he had cattle up until about 5 or 10 years ago, and then got out from them. Just a cow calf up on the pastures by Decatur, Nebraska.
Sure.
But nope, no livestock for now. But I don't know. We got some solar farms knocking on the door, so I might be a sheep rancher by this time next 2 years. So I guess sheep you can run under solar farm. Yeah. Yep. So this all came in fruition about 2020, I think, and they're just trying to execute the leases right now. So,
what kind of ground are they going on? Are they going on your kind of flatter stuff down lower, or are they kind of on the side hills, or where do they want to be?
They're actually going on the highly productive stuff. They can't go down in the floodplain, so it can't be the lower lying stuff, which I think is more of a liability issue. So they're going on kind of acres right around my house, highly productive irrigation, taking off pivots, I guess. So, but we're right under a high line that feeds into Omaha, so it's just kind of prime little spot, just far enough out of the big city, and they need some better renewable electric here in Omaha, and especially with all the Facebook, Google stuff popping up on the outskirts of Omaha here. It's an infrastructure thing. We got to help feed it, I guess. So this is probably the first time I went public with that, actually. So solar farm. Yep.
Well, it does create some new opportunities too at the same time, right? So
yeah, it's almost a no-brainer. It's a wise business decision. I mean, you can't make that much money farming, so we had to look at it, and we kind of were opposed to it for a while. But once you start doing the ink, putting the pencil down to it, I mean, you can't make near that farming. So
yeah, it's a tricky subject. Some of our land has now been is near the group of where this next potential solar farm is happening, and then have some family members who have land that's potentially in it as well. So it's like once it starts and neighbors sign on, and it's going to be there, what determines you to say no to that? I mean, it's got to be a piece that's pretty sacred that you do not want into the solar farm. That it's the home quarter that's always been the home quarter, or you don't necessarily want them in your backyard, and that's a reason not to have it. But when they're going up, and you have a piece of ground next to it, and that the finances of what this looks like is pretty lucrative, man, it's a hard pass. I mean, it's just it's tricky.
Yep, same deal. Yeah, we left the 80 acres at my house out of it, so we're smart enough to do that. So we keep it a little distance, but yep. And that's where the Tobin family started. Tobin went to Connealy's, and that was like the late 1886, 1893, right in there.
Hmm.
They moved over from kind of central Nebraska, central western Nebraska.
Hmm.
So still got the old barn there and the old homestead. So,
So then, these are big projects too. They're hundreds of acres, right? They're not
thousands.
40 acres.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, this one's 1,500.
that takes so many sheep. If the vegetative control
Right.
management mechanism is
Yeah.
sheep, that takes a lot, doesn't it?
I just started looking into it. So yeah, I don't know if I'll be a sheep rancher. There's not many sheep around us unless it's show sheep.
Yeah.
So
I would not
yeah,
try to
so
do show sheep out there. That would be a lot of dystocias, a lot of
right.
dystocias to manage in and
Yeah.
amongst the solar panels. But
Uh-huh. Okay.
but yeah, I mean, think about it. Like you'd
Yeah.
have to have almost a couple sheep per acre just to manage vegetation. I
Is it?
mean,
Okay.
you're gonna want like at least a band or two bands of ewes, 1,000 ewes in a band. You're gonna look into the Peruvian program where you can get shepherds
Yep.
in here to kind of move them around and manage it, and
Oh man.
could be a
Yeah,
heck
I
of
don't
an
know. I
income
just
source.
started something to look at it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I don't know. Just looking to ways to learn to solar farm. So we're just corn and soybeans farmers, so you got to kind of adapt. So it's kind of where this cover crop thing started. So
Well, if management is possible and labor is possible, running like you can make a better case to plant productive land back to forage to run sheep on it because of the income per acre, because of the parity, the number of sheep you can run, that kind of thing. It's just always like, what am I going to do with 1,000 head of sheep and this and that, like in the off season, this and that. But if you can manage around that, you're looking at pretty sizable income stream coming in just from sheep on top of the solar lease as you're basically getting paid to use them. That could be a significant. I mean, it's not going to bring in more money than the solar panels themselves, but that if you have free feed for them throughout most of the year, and you have a really easy, lambing kind of self-maintenance type of, hair sheep or whatever, you could pull a pile of lambs every year off of that thing.
okay,
$200
good,
a piece.
good. Yeah, I'm just starting to
I mean,
brush the surface and learn about how ways do we can nap there. So yep.
yeah.
Huh.
Anyway, especially if you charge them to run the sheep, charge them for
Well, you
vegetation
will.
control.
You have to. You're going to get
Yeah.
paid for your
Yeah.
land management piece of it.
Yeah, there you go. Yep. So
Anyway.
sweet. Yeah, we're kind of in the early stages, so
Yeah.
just taking in all the
Lot to
information
come.
now and seeing how we do it. Oh yeah, it'll be a big change here by 27, I think.
So your particular area has something that happens every once in a while. I'm curious on how many times in your career it's happened, but where those of us in South Dakota don't quite manage our dams the best and need to get rid of a whole lot of water throughout the entire spring and summer, which basically devastates your cropping year. How
Right.
many times have you experienced those like catastrophic, season long floods where it's just like, oh, not farming this year, type of thing?
Right.
How many times in the last 20 years, 25 years has that happened?
I think we're up to like 5 or 7.
Every
The
5 years.
the 1 in 50-year floods they call it, and then
Yeah.
now they're happening. First one in my career was 11, and that was right after I came back to start farming. I
Yeah.
came back in about 09, 08, 09 to start farming, and then it was 19 was really bad, and then this last year. But we're blaming this last year on Iowa. We blame them a lot, but I think most of that water came from Iowa.
True.
So
True.
you guys get this one off a little bit, but yeah. But yeah, 19 was that one was like 3 in 1 year. But I can honestly say we've got everything planted, or for my farm, I got everything planted. I've never had to take prevent plant.
Okay.
But that one in 19 was close. It dried up enough we could get out there and again get it planted, and then again it came in June or later there. So
Okay.
but yeah, and then this last year was 2024 was a big surprise. Didn't see that one coming. I mean, it was drier than I'll get out, and then all of a sudden just some gushing rains came up kind of up in your Iowa, neck of the woods into Iowa, and it all got to come down there to the creeks, to the river and everything. So it made quite a mess real fast.
Huh.
But
Do your fields lie in an area where you actually have to do like dozing of trees and moving of sandbars and all that too, or?
no, we're kind of, most of it's old family ground that's in the old river channel is the stuff that we farm, but we did have to move some sand in 11 because that came across pretty fast, and made some ditches and moved some sand around. And we do have to go around and clean up debris kind of around the edge where the water comes up. So not fun, but it's kind of just anything from trees to branches to a little bit of trash, but it's mainly just kind of the stuff that washes up and laps against the side while it sit there. But yeah, 11 was the run real bad where we had to get out there with actual payloaders and scrapers and move stuff around. But it seems like the last ones haven't moved much.
What happens to your soil quality then, or like fertility wise?
I think it hasn't messed with it too much. I think it maybe pushes it down a little bit, and then you get at that water weight, it does some compaction. So that's why this year I went ahead and I threw in radishes, turnips, and with my rye just to kind of help break up that compaction, because that water sat there probably a couple weeks, week and a half at least. So I just didn't know what the water weight, and I think it just pushes the fertility down. I haven't got out there to retest some soil since this last one, but
do you see that?
I think it's still
fallow effect from that, like where the standing water is there for long enough where you lose all your biology and you've got to almost repopulate it to get back.
That's what I think so, because you kind of get that crust on top, and it's just a mucky thing underneath. So that's why I almost had to run a light shank through there quick to just kind of air it open before we put in the cover crops. So yeah, I think you get that little bit of that effect. You just got to help it breathe a little bit because it just got stuck and compacted too much.
Yeah, the water just suffocates it. No oxygen in soil is no good.
Yeah, it didn't smell good there for after. Yeah. So
it does need.
But yeah, this is my first cover crop adventure, so just kind of dabbing in it. The other floods, we kind of flew some on the sandy stuff to kind of keep the sand from blowing in 2011 and 19. But this first year we've actually went in and drilled just to keep something living, getting something going again for this next year.
What changed? What changed your, or what was the motivation to take you over the edge to say, yeah, this time I am going to do a cover crop?
Mainly all the sustainability talk and just trying to adapt and get a little bit. I've been kind of tackling the no-till thing, just try to get a little bit so we're not turning everything over, turning it black. But this is a sustainable thing and make America healthy again. Just trying to get more dense crop, better. And then I figured, I don't know, it was about a perfect time where we could get in there and get a good cover crop going. And then some guys did plant soybeans, and that just didn't seem like it'd pencil in mid-July because usually catch a frost and they don't end up filling out. But they actually made some good crops off it. But I was like, I already know how to plant soybeans. I don't like soybeans that much, so we'll try this cover crop adventure and at least get me ready for here and see where I can adapt it into the programs coming for these next few years with sustainability talk.
Yep. Was there any programs? Is there any emergency programs in your area? Any equipped dollars that like freed up to help with that during the midsummer? One small natural disasters, they open them up, but usually you got to plan for it a year ahead of time.
Yeah, I think they helped with the cleanup and getting the trash and stuff off, getting people out there to clean up. But no, nothing with the cover crops. But still walking through that on some other programs and see if we can get something. But I did put some acres in the equip for next year, so I can keep playing with it and seeing what works and where.
Actually, not that familiar with Nebraska's E-Quip program. Jared, do you have experience?
I know they jumped their rates. They would always, Kansas and Nebraska are always significantly lower than other states around there for cover crop. It was like, just relatively decent money, but like not the same. So it was always like 40 some dollars for multi-species. And that really jumped. I think they're like $74 an acre now for multi-species in the 2025 price docket. I was just looking at it the other day because we have a program in RSVP with Prime Pursuits that we're trying to kick off in Nebraska over the next few years. So it's jumping a lot, the payment rates. I know
there you go. Yeah, I think we're about 64 last week on a single species. So yeah, you're probably up in there in the 70s on a multi-species. But it seems like we're always a little bit behind you guys. So South Dakota and Iowa, we're always a little bit behind you guys, but we're trying to catch up.
Yep.
I think I was the leader for sure.
I was the leader.
I don't say that.
Yeah, that goes to their head. We know.
Yeah, right. We like our Nebraska corn, so we stand up for it here. So.
Yeah.
What do you feel like? So you get out and about, see different things. What do you think some of those opportunities are? Do you think there's are you kind of thinking there's like a 45Z play for biofuels, or are you thinking there's like supply shed opportunities, because you've got a high fructose corn syrup plant in Blair-ish area? No? Yeah,
we got Big Cargill. Yep. Big Cargill. They use, I don't know how many products they made out of there. I've tried to get a list, but just to have a rough idea. But they make about every piece of the corn goes into some product out of Cargill, Blair. It's pretty amazing. So we're pretty lucky. That's only like 17 miles south of us.
Okay.
So that's where pretty much all our corn ships, unless a feedlot guy needs it closer. So, yeah, but I don't see anything on the producer side quite yet, but the numbers look I mean, they're exceptional for the ethanol plants and some of those biofuels. I think they can get something from it. But right now, I don't know if we're seeing much on the farmer side yet.
Yep.
But maybe they'll clarify a little bit more of that. But what I've been reading and what I've been talking to guys on peer groups and stuff, that it just doesn't seem like it's really at home helping the producer yet.
It depends. That's kind of what we do at AgSpire, is trying to flesh those opportunities out. Mostly we've been more successful at internalizing them, and most of our programs today are for beef cow calf producers and in specialty grain growers and things like that. But that's, I mean, in a lot of ways what we're trying to do is figure out, okay, how do we provide and create programs that effectively reward farmers and ranchers for the things that they can and want to do, but take advantage of that. I mean, it starts from 5 years ago when we were looking at this and saying, man, these companies are really looking at this, but how do we get them into usable forms? And we felt like there needed to be an organization that was, I don't want to say farmer focused, but beyond just the traditional like nonprofit NGO type groups to facilitate that, right? So we come with it from like a ground up grassroots look at how do we take what they're looking to do, but with a farmer lens to make sure that the programs are, match the incentives that are required to like get people interested in it and also make it user friendly enough to want to do so. But it's
awesome.
It's piece by piece, and like I said, we've had a lot of success in the beef cattle space right now, in the cow calf space. But we'll be looking to expand those all the time. But I'm again, like 45Z, like ethanol credits will trump anything else that happens, but they're just not like clear. And I don't blame the ethanol companies for not investing heavily in building the infrastructure out, because they've yet to receive clear guidance. They're still refining the rules. If it ever happens, it'll be a big deal. But that program, 45Z, ends in 2027, which means that you're pretty much looking at the 26 crop, and they're still trying to write the rules. So it's like the window is closing. If they extend that law for 5 more years, then all of a sudden I think like everybody needs to take a harder look at it. When I say everybody, I mean the biofuel companies and how to capture it. But I don't blame the average regional, farmer cooperative type, farmer owned ethanol plant from not, reshaping how they procure corn today and how they pay for it based on something that may only last for a full crop season by the time they get everything done.
Right.
That's
so much planning into it, and no long-term definitions. It's pretty scary out here.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just try to enroll some acres in it and try to adapt
Figure
here.
it
So
out.
if it does get thrown at us, we're ready to go sooner than later.
Yep.
So being ready to adapt, I think so.
That's a good perspective on it.
Yep.
That's a good perspective on it. Cool.
So you talked about your cover crop on the flooded out acres. What do you see in your area for folks using cover crops in a corn and soybean rotation? Because there's very little wheat there, right? And probably other small grains, just not as much. And
No, hardly any pig producers. So just barely any wheat acres in the county. But yeah, it seems like most of it, I think, is mainly like just your rye. You see a lot of rye and a little bit of oats. But then I went multi-species. I threw some vetch out there to help stabilize some nitrogen. Just trying to talk to some professionals. They recommended trying that if it's going to corn. So I tried to make it right. I kind of like to do things right. I just don't want to throw it out there and wish for the best. I just wanted to pick a lot of brains on it and got out there and got a good crop down there. I got some massive radishes and turnips, about 2 foot long. Most of them are like a softball or beach ball. So yeah, it's I don't know what I'm going to do with it in the spring. So this is my winter thing, is to study up here and see how we plan into it this spring.
You do have
Or if
rye
I do,
in there or not?
Oh yeah. Yep. I got rye.
Rye.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Rye, yeah. So rye vetch. And I think I did put a little bit of clover in down on some areas for some deer pressure, because our deer numbers are down. So we're trying to help them keep their fed. So then we're a big waterfowl area. So I did try some millet. Was it German foxtail millet by some of our duck acres?
Okay.
Where we duck and goose hunt. So
Yeah.
a little something different, and tried the bale thing, but I haven't been able to move the bales yet. So I think the bale market's a little saturated, as you guys probably know up there. So not much better down here.
There's a lot of hay everywhere still.
Mm-hmm.
Easy winter too.
Yep. But yeah, it looks good. Yeah, it was a fun little venture. So I don't know. We'll see.
You should have some of that. I mean, obviously the rye is going to be there, and you'll have to manage that. But the vetch too, if it's hairy vetch, which I'm assuming it is, you'll probably have some of that come back.
Yeah.
But it's pretty easy to kill. And I think, like, I don't know, as far as how to use that rye and manage through it, Or do you plan on no-tilling your soybeans directly into it, or are you gonna kill it and then plant, or what are you thinking there?
I'd kind of like to plant my beans into it. I'm pretty good with my bean planter, no
Okay.
tilling. So I'd kind of
Yep.
like plan on that. But corn's the one I don't really know what I'm going to do with. If we got to terminate it early, or if I do have to make a tillage pass, that's kind of my last resort. Just to
Yeah.
because there's such massive turnips and radishes out there. I just don't know how they're going to feed the planter's going to feed through there. So we're
Yeah.
at 30-inch corn. So
Okay.
yeah, got a
You'll be
little room to get around them.
surprised
But
on
yeah,
how they just disappear. I mean, you'll
that's
take
what I was wondering.
just a massive radish root, and it's going to turn and shrink down into this small little. It looks like a little styrofoam cylinder. It
Oh,
looks
okay,
like goose crap is what it looks like. You won't
okay,
be
I
able
have
to find a
noticed that.
leaf.
Yeah,
Yeah, and they'll be
okay.
gone. So I
Because
wouldn't
I
worry
laid a
about
few
them.
out outside my door. I laid a few outside my door, and they were massive, and now they're all shrunken up and
Hmm.
pretty much gone. So that does make sense. So
Yeah,
yeah,
they're like
and just
80%
nobody
water.
warned me
So
how bad they were gonna smell.
It smells so
I
bad.
had no idea. Nobody mentioned that to me.
yeah,
So I feel kind
sulfur.
of bad for some of the neighbors. I was like, I might not have done so many of those if I knew that was gonna happen. But I guess it'll won't be there for too much longer.
Yeah, it is a rotting odor for sure.
Yeah, it was weird. I was like, whoo, driving by it the first time, and I put them down by some river cabins because it was all from the river flood. But luckily, they're only there during the summer, so it should be gone for the most part when they're there next summer. I hope.
That's why they
Yeah.
call some of
So,
those. Now it makes more sense why they call some of those decaying biomass, cover crops green manure, because it's like it really does. I mean,
oh,
it
yeah,
just
there you go. Makes sense.
that's what it
Yep.
is. You grew a whole
Okay.
bunch
Yeah.
of captured a whole bunch of carbon and organic matter, and it was in a really high moisture form. Going into the fall and
Hmm.
harvest, it doesn't dry out like a warm season would, and so it freezes, it ruptures all the cells,
Okay.
and then just starts to decay, and it's pretty wet. So
Okay. Yep. Okay.
it's a
Sweet.
it's
Well, I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to the spring. So we'll
yeah.
see.
I
See what
think
I can
that
do with it.
yeah, rye. I'm glad you put rye in because that seems to be the gateway cover crop for folks that once you plant
Yep.
soybeans into rye, it's like, all right, I can see how this kind of protected my beans from a little less weed pressure and
Yeah.
got the
There you
ground
go. Okay.
covered, and it's an awesome crop ahead of soybeans. Corn, I
Okay.
I get a little nervous with it. I I mean, you can manage it how you want, but if I was gonna plant corn where the rye was, I'd kill off that rye, a week or 10 days before I planted corn. On
Okay.
the first time. And the
Okay.
next year
Yeah.
I might
So
try to hold it because you can get by with
right.
it if you manage your nitrogen and you've got plenty of fertility on hand and your soil is warming up good. You can have rye where you
Okay.
plant your corn.
Okay.
But that first time I tell people just kill it and let's get that corn crop off to a good start.
Yep. Okay. I'll write that down.
Yep. Yep.
But let it be in your
Taking all the
beans.
pointers I can get. There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I like that. Sweet.
So I saw on your social media presence you were at an event called FarmCon. Was it back in December, or was it just right after the first of the year here a few weeks ago?
Right after the first of the year. Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of the kickoff to the farm conference for the 2025. So yeah, we're down there in Kansas City for a nice couple days.
Hmm.
So yep. Kind of get the macroeconomics aspect of it, kind of the whole world's perspective with the farming industry.
Yeah.
So kind of like it. Last year was my first year, and then came back this year and ended up getting one of those fancy, was it influencer reward
Oh
things.
yeah.
So kind of got ag Twitter up in a frenzy.
Yeah, put a
So
little
I don't know if
target
you
on your
guys ever saw
guys'
that.
backs. I did. I
Yeah,
thought it
nothing like
was.
that.
Oh,
Yeah,
I was so surprised at the number of people that
yeah,
took just kind of like a offense, right? Just like were offended. And I don't know if it was
yep,
I think some of it was folks that wished they were on the list that weren't on the list, and like, oh, the
yep,
list was wrong. I should have had me on there. I should have had so and so. It's like, well, yeah, like I don't know. Like we can all
right,
debate on who should have been,
yeah,
all conference, right, off the team that year, and
right,
like and never get it completely right or wrong, and like there's
yep,
always next year, right? Like no one's aging out in this, and you got a target to move
yep.
towards. But
League
yeah,
MVPs. Oh yeah,
yeah,
yep, yeah. But I think anytime that somebody comes out with a list, and then yeah, you get people not on it, or everybody's opinion who should be on it. So it was a good way to get definitely perks to the Van Trump family for getting that. Definitely rose a lot of feathers. So
yeah,
got a lot of attention. So
yeah.
yeah, it was pretty cool. I was honored to be down there and got to go down there and see a lot of people. I knew a lot of them from social media because we've been there,
Hmm.
through the years, and then meet a lot of new faces. Networking is top notch down there. If you ever have the chance, just go down to meet the people. That's just a big room of ag industry professionals from down to little farmers to big farmers, and
Hmm.
it's awesome networking. So highly recommend running down there to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So is
So
Farm Con that put together this list? I don't know anything about it actually.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. FarmCon. Yeah. Was it Van Trump? So Ag Swag and Kevin Van Trump and Jordan Van Trump kind of put the list together, I'm guessing. And I think did have people vote on it, like industry people. So it wasn't just like an in-house voting thing. There was ballots put out and just like what companies people like to work with or see out there and whose opinions they take into consideration when they're doing business. So it wasn't just the Van Trumps, but they sent out stuff to, I don't know, because
So
you get all
was
kinds of industry people.
Okay. It was more than just people on social media, or was that the list?
It
Was
was
it
it
social
was
media?
news people. It was just people on social media, podcasters,
Gotcha.
farm for profit guys. So it was extreme ag guys were on there. They're very, I mean, they have a good group going. A lot of experimental ag stuff on there, and I know a lot of them guys. Kelly Garrett's a good buddy. So it was a wide group, just news, podcasts, to Goddess of Grain, marketing people. I mean, it was a whole wound up people of ag. So a little bit, everybody stays in a different sector. I'm not a podcaster, but I just kind of stay home and tell my story on the farm. And I did kind of after the FarmCon last year, I started helping ag companies get as an early adopter, kind of get into the ag tech sector and test products on my farm. So I don't know. DTN was probably my first influencer brand ambassador job, and that was like in 2019, 2020. So it's kind of evolved. I mean, I don't know. I kind of just test products, and if I like them, I tell people they work on my farm. So
So it's like an
really nothing.
NIL deal.
Yeah, pretty much. But my integrity means more than the word influencer. So
yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna tell you how it is. If it works on my farm, I'll let you know. If it doesn't, then I probably won't talk about it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I think
but
it's I think the whether you're talking about ag Twitter on X or any of those groups that are connecting folks that otherwise wouldn't have a real way to hourly, much less even annually, engage with each other to learn things is fantastic. And I've said this I'm sure on the podcast half a dozen times. So if it sounds redundant, it is, but it's just how amazing to me is that I feel like we're the first generation back in our productive careers back in our small little rural towns that didn't have to
mhm.
make incredible sacrifices on connectivity to information like all previous generations had to, right? Every generation before this,
Yeah.
like the decision to move back to a really small town in Minnesota, Nebraska, South Dakota, Iowa, wherever, you basically,
Mhm.
now the best case scenario is, 3 days later you get a newspaper or a magazine that could tell you what's going on in the world. And now
Yeah.
there's no functional advantage to learning what's going on in the world whether you live in downtown Chicago or small town rural America. And it's amazing how
Mhm.
liberating that is and how empowering it is for those of us that, chose to go live in the middle of nowhere.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah, we're always connected now. So yeah, phones are at our side. We
Hmm.
pretty much have service now all around, or you can find a service provider.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty amazing. So yeah, I think I graduated high school in '04, and I actually went to college for interactive media, kind of web design. So
Hmm.
I was kind of one of them generations. We grew up with the computer. So
Yep.
and now they're running our tractors. So we're pretty fortunate. And with all the stuff we do on the computer, iPads now, it's pretty amazing that be a part of the whole process.
Yep. Cool. No, that's neat. So is that conference, that FarmCon, is it anybody can attend, just register, or is it invitation only? How's it work?
I call it like an underground club because it's a pretty
Tight group.
nifty group of people there.
Yep.
But anybody can go. It's just it's a little pricey, and you
Yep.
got to commit about 2 3 nights to it. But
Yep.
it's definitely worth it. You get a lot of good motivational speakers, a lot of good macroeconomic speakers talking about the whole entire world ag econ look. So definitely recommend trying it.
Did you
But
have a favorite speaker that came out of there? I'm always looking for who's kind of up and comer in this speaking circuit.
ooh, yep. That's a good one. The motivational speakers. I don't know. I like Carter Williams last year, and he's
Okay.
kind of this "Make America Healthy Again"
Yep.
aspect, and he's kind of at home. He's an investor guy, I think, but he's actually boots on the ground, and we've started some WhatsApp groups just to try to figure out how we can make the food a lot healthier
Yeah.
as in this process. As our Kennedy takes over here pretty soon,
Yeah.
it's going to get in a lot of people's ears. So he's actually taken an advanced approach to actually figuring out how to do it from the farm. So Carter Williams is a good one, and he's kind of a panelist, but I enjoyed watching him.
I think that trend is. I'm surprised at how negative most people have have been viewing that trend, right? And even like commodity groups, I don't think like, National Corn, for example, is embracing to say, hey, we can be a part of this. This is a good thing for farms and farmers as a whole. I shouldn't say that's their official statement. I have no idea. But it doesn't. It seems like a lot of people are looking at that, going, "Boy, that sounds like disruptive change, and that could be bad." Because most of the time, disruptive change is not bad. But the long term is like, I think we really, your outcome, like Charlie Munger once said, show me the incentives and I can tell you what the outcome is, right? And I think we're reaping the outcome of the incentives that we've placed in front of agriculture for the last 30 years, right? Specialization, scalability, et cetera. And I don't know if that outcome looks great for if we just continue with that trend for the next 30 years, right? I think it leads to further depopulation and kind of gutting of rural communities. Any further consolidation, and like vast expansion on this trajectory kind of looks more like, well, now the average farm is really a corporate farm 20 years from now if we keep kind of going down this pathway. And so, I don't know. It seems like re-racking the incentive structure maybe wouldn't be an all bad thing.
Yep.
Even for those. Yeah.
Yeah. We're already overproducing commodities, so we might as well try to get to some more specialized stuff and get it more nutrient dense. So I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what, even with these solar farms taking acres out of production, I guess that's helping the total aspect. So kind of weird thinking that way, but it's more about profit now than yields. So
yeah. Cool.
You nailed it. Maybe just a bigger focus on quality too. If we go back.
And that's what we're lucky with irrigation here. We can almost promise a quality product because we can add water as needed. It's not really a rain replacement, but we can limp it around to the next rain. So creates that's why we got really good beef in Nebraska, because we can get that nice irrigated, healthy kernels to the feedlot and make some good old beef. So,
yeah. Cool.
I like it. I think it's exciting. I think it's motivating for, you always want to do the best, right? Like, and I think there has been just I don't know if we're farming sloppy, but we're farming to get more scalability out of everything that we always do. And so I think just stepping back a little bit and going, all right. Yeah, and it does. It starts with soil, right? Like taking a look at this soil quality thing and what are the ways and things that we can do to improve that ultimately improves the quality of the food that ends up on the table or runs through our cattle.
Exactly.
It's a good thing. Even though it might be a little intimidating
something
when
new.
Changes come. Yeah.
I know.
The unknown is a little scary.
Even by me being used to be no tiller tiers, like used to make people cry with their tillage tools, but now that I was like, I don't like being out there away from my kids all the time. And I was like, tillage is expensive, burning fuel, the equipment's so much more expensive. So I was like, if we can find a better way to do this, let's figure it out. And it all comes down to efficiency, burning less fuel, less time. So we still get the profits from the acres. So I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. It's a nice little venture.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
So we'll get to pick up this conversation again here in about 2 months or a month and a half, actually, not even that. In Denver, the Commodity Classic, we kind of alluded to earlier. Justin's got some of the details. Justin, when and where are we speaking together?
We, as in the three of us and two others, too.
Yep.
We're going to have Brady Wolf and Trent Kubik. We're going to have a conversation at Commodity Classic on the stage. We've got a session there. It's going to be awesome. That's March 4th at 12:30. And so we had a discussion about this. Actually, this morning, Jared and I did start brainstorming some ideas. And so if you enjoy hearing the Roots and Ruminant podcast with guests, you should tune into that. And we're going to record it as well. But if you're attending Commodity Classic, be sure to come to that one on Tuesday there, March 4th at 12:30. So we're going to talk about diverse crop rotations. And each panel member will have a chance to Jared and I were talking about maybe we incorporate some sort of card game with this where we have scenarios, kind of like we typically have a game called Graze It, Harvest It, Rent It Out. And we're going to put together maybe a card game with different scenarios on it where each person gets a chance to talk about how you would manage each scenario and things you would do as a farmer with each scenario, and Jared and I will kind of moderate that.
So a luck of a draw, you have to comply with a scenario of a card that you draw, and then you say, okay, if I have to do this next year or in 5 years, what would I do and how would I do it, type thing. So
Okay.
Yep.
Sweet.
Yep.
Sounds like a blast, guys.
It'll be
Can't wait to
fun.
meet you there.
Look
Yeah,
forward
it'll
to
be
it.
good. Well, then Quentin's also going to do coffee in a booth. So
Oh, yeah.
if you're a fan of
We're going to call it Coffee with Q.
Coffee with Q, yep. If you want to come meet,
There you
we can do that that same morning, Tuesday at 9
Yep,
a.m. in our
yep.
booth, the Renova Seed
So.
booth, there at Commodity Classic. So should be a great opportunity. Come meet us if you're there, and meet Quentin too. So
Sounds like a blast, guys. Can't wait.
Cool.
But yeah, it's going to be here before we know it.
Yes, it is.
Time's flying.
yeah. Well, thanks for being a guest on the podcast.
Thank you.
It's good to learn more about you, hear your story. Appreciate
You
your
bet.
time.
Thanks for inviting me, and always good catching up. And we'll continue on here in March 4th. It sounds like.
We'll see you soon. All right.
Alrighty.
All right.
Take care.
Thanks, Quinn.
Take care. Take care.
Well, we hope you enjoyed another episode of the Roots and Ruminants podcast. Let us know what you thought of it. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all those social media things. And, if you ever have any questions, just give us a call. We've got a toll-free number here at 888-498-7333. Be glad to hear from you. Thank you.